Maura Murray crashed her car on a snowy road in New Hampshire. A witness saw her standing there. Police arrived just minutes later. She was already gone. Not hours later, not the next morning, minutes. And that's what makes this case so unsettling, because this wasn't a disappearance with no last known moment. It happened right after one. Maura Murray was 21 years old. She was a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. On the surface, her life didn't look like the kind of life that suddenly disappears. She had classes, a routine, friends, plans, the kind of everyday structure that makes a case like this feel even more disturbing later. Because when someone vanishes out of nowhere, people always look back for the obvious warning, the strange message, the dramatic goodbye, the clear sign that something was already falling apart. But with Maura, that's part of what made everything so uncomfortable. There wasn't one single moment that screamed, "This is what happened." There were only details, and the details never fully lined up. Earlier that day, Maura was seen on ATM surveillance footage. That matters, because it gives the day a strange kind of clarity. She wasn't just some name that vanished into a theory. She was visible, moving through ordinary life, touching an ATM, driving, making choices. And somehow, by the end of that same night, she would be gone. At some point that day, Maura sent emails to her professors and work supervisor saying she would be away for a week because of a death in the family. But later, that explanation didn't hold up. There had been no confirmed death in the family. And that detail changes the tone of the whole case. Because now this wasn't just a young woman driving somewhere unexpectedly. It was a young woman leaving campus with a reason that didn't seem real. That doesn't prove danger. It doesn't prove she planned to disappear. But it does mean one thing. Maura was trying to step away from her normal life for reasons she did not fully explain. And that's where the discomfort begins. Not because it gives you an answer, because it removes the comfort of a simple one. At some point, she got into her black Saturn and started heading north. The reasons why are still debated. Maybe she wanted time alone. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she had a destination in mind. Maybe she didn't. But what matters for the case is not just that she drove north, it's where the story stops feeling normal. By that evening, she was in Haverhill, New Hampshire, a cold, dark stretch of road. Snow, trees, the kind of place where everything feels a little more isolated once the sun is gone. And around 7:27 p.m., her car crashed off Route 112. That crash should have been the center of the story. It should have been the moment where everything after became easy to reconstruct. There was a car. There was a road. There were witnesses nearby. There was a specific place and a specific time. In most cases, that kind of moment narrows the mystery. Here, it did the opposite. A local resident reported the crash. A school bus driver passing through stopped and spoke to the young woman at the scene. And that short interaction is one of the most important moments in the entire case, because it may have been the last time anyone definitely saw Maura Murray. According to later accounts, she appeared shaken but conscious. She reportedly declined help, and crucially, she said she had already called for roadside assistance. That detail has always stood out, because whether it was true or not almost doesn't matter. What matters is what it tells you about the moment. She didn't want the interaction to go further. She didn't want help in the normal way. She wanted control over the situation even after the crash. And if you stop there, that still doesn't feel impossible. People do strange things after accidents. They panic. They make bad decisions. They say things that aren't true because they want to avoid attention. That part is believable. What isn't believable is what happens next, because between that brief conversation and the arrival of police, Maura was gone. Not later that night, not after an hour passed, not after a long, empty gap. Minutes. That tiny window is what turns this case from strange into almost unbearable, because it feels like the answer should still be trapped inside it. A witness speaks to her. Police head to the scene. The car is still there. The road is still there. The snow is still there. And somehow the driver is gone. No clean answer, no confirmed direction, no clear sign of what happened in those minutes. That's what keeps the case alive, not just the disappearance, the size of the window. If she ran, where did she go so fast? If someone picked her up, who was it? If she left the road on foot, why was there never a simple, undeniable trail that settled it? Those are the kinds of questions that don't just create mystery, they create frustration. Because this is not a case where everything disappears into a giant empty timeline. This one feels interrupted, as if the truth is just beyond the point where the timeline still makes sense. And the crash is what locks that feeling into place. Because a crash is supposed to stop movement. It's supposed to force a next step. Call for help, wait for police, walk to the nearest house, do something that can be followed. But this case doesn't give you that. Instead, it gives you a crash that should have anchored the story, and a disappearance that somehow escaped it. That contradiction is the whole reason the case refuses to settle. Maura was there, the witness was there, the road was there, police were close, and still the answer never fully formed. The more you look at the timeline, the more disturbing it becomes. Because it doesn't feel like someone vanished over days. It feels like someone slipped out of reality between one moment and the next. And even if there are logical explanations, none of them feel complete enough to quiet that feeling. That's why this case stays with people. Not because it has no details, because it has just enough details to make the disappearance feel impossible. A young woman drives north. A crash happens. A witness sees her alive. Police arrive within minutes. She is gone. And even now, all these years later, that sequence still feels wrong. Not just tragic, wrong. Because it feels like there should have been one final clear answer waiting at the end of that road. And there wasn't. What makes Maura Murray's disappearance so disturbing isn't just that she vanished. It's that she vanished so close to the last known moment. There was a crash. There was a witness. There were only minutes in between. And still, no one knows where she went. That's what gives this case its weight. Not just mystery, not just tragedy, but that specific, unsettling feeling that the answer should exist somewhere between the crash, the witness, the police arrival, and the empty road that came after. It feels like the truth should still be trapped inside those minutes. And yet, all these years later, it isn't. Maura Murray was seen after the crash. Her car was found. The road was known. The time window was small. And somehow, that was still not enough. That's why the case never really settles. Because it doesn't feel distant. It feels immediate, a real place, a real road, a real moment where everything should have been traceable. And then, nothing. Not a clear direction, not a clear explanation, just a young woman on a winter road, and a disappearance that still feels impossible to place anywhere except inside those final minutes.